US-based SABC correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease was given one of the last interviews with outgoing UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon after he leaves office at the end of this year. In this exclusive SABC News interview, various issues in international relations came under the spotlight, such as the crisis in the DRC, transitions of power in Africa, South Sudan, as well as Syria.
The Secretary-General of the United Nations in one of his final sit-down interviews before his mandate expires on December 31st this year. I am now joined by Ban Ki-moon. Welcome to SABC News.
Great pleasure to see you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity, Secretary-General. I wanted to start in the DRC and the attack by rebels on MONUSCO peacekeepers, particularly the South African contingent, in which one soldier was killed, two were seriously injured. Why are rebels continuing to flourish in the eastern DRC, despite this being one of the largest peacekeeping missions anywhere in the world?
I'm deeply saddened by the news that very brave South African peacekeeper was killed and two soldiers were seriously injured. I extend my deepest condolences and wish these injured soldiers will get recovered as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we have seen more than 100 peacekeepers died in the course of their very noble peace mission. It's been happening every year, and I sincerely hope that the people, concerned parties, will resolve all these issues through political negotiation. In the meantime, MONUSCO is firmly committed to preserve peace and stability. The safety and security of UN staff, including peacekeepers, is a primary priority.
UN peacekeepers, particularly in the DRC, just today are of course on high alert, given the fact that the incumbent president, Joseph Kabila's mandate expires today. Of course, we've been talking about this now for a number of months. We've seen tens of thousands of paramilitary officers and police fanning out across the streets of major centers due to concern that there could be violence against any extension in his term. How concerned are you, Secretary-General, that we are again going to see the DRC enter into civil war?
In February, I visited DRC and had a meeting with the President Kabila. And since then, my special envoy and Security Council members and all of our senior advisors, including myself, have been urging President Kabila and the parties concerned to resolve all these issues through inclusive dialogue, wider and wider consultations. And last weekend, I had telephone talks with President Joseph Kabila. And while I appreciate his leadership, but I also urged that this continuing dialogue should be further deepened in a wider way. And I also appreciate this dialogue mediation facilitated by CENCO, the Conférence Épiscopale Nationale du Congo. This will bring some good result. It's important that all the parties concerned agree for peaceful and accountable transitional measures on the presidential election.
I mean, the situation in the DRC, you'll agree, comes within a broader context about the transitions of power in Africa. We've seen many of those actually happen. South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, most recently Ghana. There is positive news coming out in terms of peaceful transitions from one party to the other. And yet we have examples like Burundi, the Gambia most recently, Gabon. Your message has been very clear over a number of months, but it doesn't appear that African leaders necessarily are all listening.
It's very unfortunate and sad that many African leaders are not keeping their promises to work within the provisions of Constitution. That is why last year and this year, during AU summit meeting in Addis Ababa, on 2 occasions, I have publicly stated and urged African leaders that when their constitutional term comes to an end, they should not arbitrarily amend the constitution. They should not cling to power. And I have been urging them that please listen very attentively to the voices and aspirations of their people and abide by these constitutional provisions. And unfortunately, we have seen several cases, even after my repeated calls. Even President Obama of the United States, when he visited African Union in July last year, he also repeated what I had already said.